Here's the stupidity in the argument that Chris is putting out. Every president inherits what happens before him. You can't blame Bush for what didn't happen in Clinton and came forward. You can't blame Obama for what didn't happen during the Bush years. But at some point, just like a corporation, you're in charge.
It's his now.
Now,
for sure.
Now, these kids that are protesting in Wall Street and predominantly younger, when Susan Sarandon pulls up in her stretch limo, flies off to the Riviera, when Michael Moore, who made $200 million in the past,
when the Koch brothers fund the Tea Party,
let me finish my point. Don't interrupt me. Let me finish my point.
Let's be fair, though.
When they are arguing against Wall Street, which presidency is now doing the bailouts of these corporations, Goldman Sachs, GE, Jeff Immelt? When they go to McDonald's to go to the bathroom, where do they trade? They trade on Wall Street. When they live on their MacBooks and laptops,
right.
A corporation makes that.
The president's going to be held. These people are mad at Democrats and Republicans, David. They're mad at both. And I'm not saying I agree with them, but here I am defending them.
It's their American right, Chris.
We're in America.
But there is an ignorance out there to say that the banks don't want to lend. That is factually incorrect.
Well, why aren't they lending?
They make business because of the uncertainty in this. Oh, you're certain. Things are certain in this world.
You know what?
The only thing certain is that you're going to continue to blame George Bush. That is really the only thing we got going for us right now.
It is his fault. So let's be clear.
Let's talk in 10 years when it's still George Bush's fault.
It will be.
You said there's some things that they're talking about down there that you don't agree with. What are they?
Well, listen, again, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what they're talking about. They don't really have a clear message. And again, if I wasn't really, at a point in my life where I have to work for a living, I'd be down there with them, focusing their message and getting them on track.
They don't have a focused message. Isn't that the key point, though, that people who are really have mortgages, they have families, they have real bills, they're out there trying to struggle and they're trying to make it work. These kids have no responsibility yet. Do you find it somewhat ironic, though, that when it's all said and done 10 years from now, they will probably be at the other end of the spectrum that they're protesting against right now?
Listen, I can't agree with that statement more. I mean, I was a young guy who wanted to protest too at some point in my life, and I'm sure we all were at some point, and then eventually you have to move on. And that's what happens in life. Unfortunately, we can't be those bright-eyed idealists our entire life. We have to move on and kind of make things work.
Right. Reality comes to play.
When did you move on?
Yeah,
I moved on. I mean,
Friday.
Tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
Hey, don't confuse the fact, Tracy, that I'm a fierce partisan without the fact that I'm a capitalist as well, and I kind of make a living. My office is on Broadway and Cedar. It's a pretty nice office.
Come on, here's the fundamental dishonesty in what Chris is putting out and what the left is putting out. They're protesting. They have no end game. They have no plan. They're simply in the business of disrupting, not looking for solutions. Same thing we see coming out of this administration. You disrupt, you interfere, you don't provide workable solutions for businesses, for banks, you don't provide certainty, you heap on regulations, and these kids are down there confused as ever.
Let Chris respond to that.
Well, Dave, they're not focused yet. The Tea Party wasn't focused until the corporation took them over.
I'm talking about respond to the idea that the administration, they're not focused. The president calling Americans soft, calling our competitiveness soft, and yet at the same token, it feels like all they've done was put up speed blocks and brick walls for businesses that really, truly want to compete. And listen, this is not partisan. I know you saw the interview with the CEO of Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. I know you read the Charles Schwab op-ed piece. These are legitimate global businesses that are saying, this administration is killing us.
Sometimes when you have a situation as we had in 07 and 08, you overreact with regulations. I think FinReg, there are parts of it that have to stay, and there are parts of it that have to be reformed, and so that we can make it more flexible for the banks and others to do business in the country. That said, I think you're going to react.
So
to things like that.
Why do we overreact? Because there's a certain part of that overreaction that's all about venom. That's all about punishment, punitive punishment. Well, and I think that's the core problem with this administration. Too much of their policies are based on pure anger.
You have to understand that this country for years has been reactionary in its policies. We take a situation and we react to it. We don't think proactively about how this is going to affect A, B, C, D, E down the line. That's a problem with our democracy. It's Democrats, it's Republicans that do it. They react in a way that sometimes takes us to an extreme.
Can I point,
and then they have to meet in the middle. You have to work things out. That's what happens in America.
Let me point something out that Chris just did. Remember the shouting match with Tracy where you were blaming
I never like to shout at Tracy.
Where you blamed the banks?
I was shouting at you, Dave.
If you peel back what he said about a minute ago about FinReg and regulations and what it does to the market, It's contradictory. Chris, this is the problem. Reactionary contradictions and talking points is what's coming.
I don't use talking points. Dave, do you see any paper in front of me? I'm not looking at my computer screen right now.
You just screamed and blamed the banks, and you just turned around and said...
It was the banks' fault, though. The banks were running amok under Bush. FinReg went a little too far.
Guys, hold on one second, because I'm tired of talking about what happened 3 years ago.
Right.
And this is what I think the Democrats love this, because it gets us off the fact of what's happening now and where are the solutions now. Because you have to admit, if your office is on Wall Street, that the president
it's on Broadway.
The president will have to move toward the center if we're ever going to get this country back to where it needs to be.
I think the president...
But is he capable of it?
Absolutely. I think he's been governing from the center. If you ask me, he hasn't been far to the left enough. If you ask most Democrats, he hasn't been far to... You ask those kids on Wall Street right now protesting where the president is, they'll say he's on the right. Okay. So it's all a matter of perspective, Charles, and we have to see where we're looking. You guys stand very far to the right. You see a guy on the left. I stand kind of center-left. I see a guy who's right down the middle.
I don't stand far to the right at all. This is the problem. You try to put the labels in it. The independents who've left, the independents that are going to decide the election are not looking at the president as governing from the center. The facts are 200 or 300 people on Wall Street don't determine...
We're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap this up. But Chris, you got 10 seconds if you want to make a last parting statement here.
Listen, bottom line is this.
Are you going to go put on a bandana and go join your friends?
If I had the hair I had in the 1990s, I might do that. But I think I'm a little bit...
Let's leave it there, guys. Let's leave it there. Chris, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Well,